You ever get tired of casting spells and just kind of want to stab something? Me too! I cannot express how both powerful and fun Warfarer is. Yes, hello my fellow Risen, and welcome to Warfarer, the most advanced of vocations in the literal sense, because you get it latest and also requires the most, well, thought to play, and really needs a lot of understanding of the game from you, the Arisen. But it is so very worth it, because the heights of power you can reach as a Warfarer are unparalleled. You can combine the very best ranged damaging skill in the game with, I don't know, the very best melee damaging skill in the game, and let me just say, I hope you're okay with one-shotting every enemy you ever face forever, effortlessly. But before we get to that strategy, and many others you can do with this wonderful vocation, let's actually go over said wonderful vocation. You will unlock it by meeting the meister on the volcanic island in the island camp. He will be located at the hot springs. He is Lamond, and he is waiting for you. You will give him 3 newt liquors, and in return you'll both unlock Warfarer and get given his meister's teaching to get the ultimate Warfarer skill. But in Warfarer's case, the ultimate skill is rearmament, the skill that literally lets you swap weapons, i.e. swap vocations. And outside of the thematic incredibleness that is your Risen Scar glowing when you do so, it's required for the vocation to function, because if you can't swap weapons, you can't do the thing Warfarer is supposed to do, which is combine skills from various vocations on the fly in combat. So, to dig in a little bit deeper then, because Warfarer can use every weapon, you can equip every weapon. So, if we don't have any of this here, the order you equip weapons is the order that you will swap to them when you cast rearmament. So if I want my archery staff, i.e. sorcerer, to be first, with thief and the daggers to be second, I'll equip them in that order, and then there we go. If you had a third weapon, that would have 3, and then that would be the cycle, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So that gives you a nice little basis here. You could technically have one of every vocation's weapon equipped, and just cycle through all 9 as you went. That would be very stupid, but it's technically something you could do. And also, because we are every vocation at once, you can equip every armour in the game, irrelevant of its vocational restrictions. So just throwing this out there, if you are a Warfarer, you are the ultimate god of fashion dogma. So, yeah, that's a big plus, and also, of course, very flexible with what you are wearing. So currently, I am in sorcerer mode, and as you'll notice, you do get the core skills of the vocation/weapon you're currently on. So I can do my magic bolts, I can get levitatey, I can quick cast as much as I want, and if I switch to thief, then yes, I've got my swift step, so that's very, very nice, and honestly, without that happening, it would be kind of pointless. The core skills of a vocation are one of the biggest reasons to play it, because they let it do what it do, so that's really, really good. Now, of course, you can only cast the equipped skills of the vocation that you currently are, so I have 2 thief on, so I can do both cutting wind and skull splitter, but I can't cast augural flare without swapping to my archery staff, and then I lose the thief skills. That's kind of, obvious, but just to fully confirm, that is how it goes. So if you like multiple vocations core skills, then already being a Warfarer is useful just to have access to them. Having a archer staff equipped on your Warfarer, even if you don't want to use any actual sorcerer incantations, just so you can levitate around when it's needed, is actually a really good strategy, even if it's not your combat focus. So there's plenty of room to explore there. And despite the fact that you only have 3 skill slots, as you can see, depending on what you've chosen, you, as I said, get the core of every vocation. So technically, if you did do the meme of equip 9 weapons, you could swap between them all and do the basic moveset of every vocation when you needed it. But of course, that lack of focus and lack of actual proper supporting skills is going to make that a little bit, well, literally jack of all trades, master of none, and I wouldn't recommend it. And just to hammer it home, you can see that every single weapon I currently have and every bit of armor I currently have is equipable. There's no cross, you can't do this, you're not the right vocation. So yeah, it really is supreme flexibility. So on that note, let's actually look at the skills, air quote, in general when it comes to setting up this vocation at our lovely vocation guild here. So the rearmament, as I told you, is the skill you get given for becoming warfarer, and you have to have it equipped. Technically, you could not have it equipped, I'll just put something else on, and then that's cool and all, but now I can't swap weapon, which means I can't swap vocation. So you have to have rearmament as one of your 4 skills to use multiple vocations, multiple weapons to be a warfarer. So that leaves 3 skill slots. As you saw when I was showing it off, but just to really hammer it home, you don't get 3 skills per weapon, it's 3 in total. Which means at absolute most, you can have 1 skill from 1 vocation 3 times for a maximum of 3 vocation skills represented. You can also do 2 and 1, and then all 3 from a single vocation. But at that point, you might as well just be that vocation. If I was like, yeah, I'm going to be a warfarer, and then I'm going to put High Fulgaribabon and Levin and Frigor, and now I'm just a worse mage / sorcerer, because I don't have a 4th skill slot. Rearmament isn't going to do anything for me. Oh, now technically if you wanted rearmament just to let you swap 2 daggers as a thief to fast dodge around before going back to your main spellcasting, that's not actually a terrible idea. So there is some niche uses for, yes, putting 3 skills from 1 vocation alongside your rearmament, and your rearmament is there solely to give you the core skills of another vocation. As you can see, we have every single core skill in the game here for use, but it certainly is niche and requires a little bit more of a thought out strategy from you. And that really kind of is the key here. Because you can only have 3 skills from across all the vocations, you really have to think about it. So for me, I had the very simple, straightforward idea of, well, combining the 2 most offensively potent things that I have yet to encounter in the game. Augural Flare on the sorcerer, which puts a mine on the enemy, and the more you attack it, the more damage it does, and the more explosions it has, and it can just one-shot drakes from 4.5 health bars. But instead of just being a sorcerer and just kind of gently hitting it with my own little staff bursts, well, I'm going to be a warfarer, and I'm going to swap to thief to get the fastest attack speed in the game, and then I'm going to put on one of the most ridiculously fast attacks in the game in Skull Splitter that just does 1 billion hits as you jump in and out of the air, and then suddenly we don't need any pawn's help. We can put Augural Flare on, switch to thief, Skull Splitter on the flare, and one-shot every boss in the game. And I will show you that actually happening a little bit later, but that was my concept. But the point here is Warfarer lets you do any concept. Say you really love the idea of warriors' big weapons, but you still want to have magic in backup, then yeah, have a greatsword on, have either a staff for mage or archie staff for your sorcerer on, and then go in at close range with big sweeping bonks from your blade, and then you can disengage and start casting spells from your staff. And it makes like a cool spell blade, well, your mystical knight at home, as it were, for those of you missing it from Dragons Dogma 1. Now, you will notice that some of these I still have to unlock, and every skill in the game isn't quite represented yet. And that's because in order to have a skill available for use on your Warfarer, you have to unlock it from the vocation itself. So I don't have any skills that require rank 3 or above Archer, rank 2 or above Warrior, and so on and so forth. However, while playing as Warfarer, you will level up every other vocation at once. Slower than if you were that vocation, yes, but you will level everything simultaneously. So you might as well play Warfarer to rank 9 and let everything else get some DCP along the way before you go back and target specific levels for specific moves. That's a really nice benefit, as is the Warfarer specific augments. Using less stamina per weapon skill is god tier. This thing is incredible and is worth everyone unlocking, even if you don't want to actually play Warfarer. This basically is going to go on to every build setup vocation in the game. And then dynamism also is pretty good. You can sprint a lot more despite your weight, but if you have good weight management, that's not as needed. And like all the vocations, you can of course use every single augment, and you basically want to choose the augments that match what you're trying to achieve with your Warfarer combination. For me, I have, of course, gone with what makes sense for my setup, and you may think that Thief and Sorcerer don't work like that well because Thief is strength and Sorcerer is magic attack. However, the weapons in the game help you out with that. You'll notice that my Thief Blades are enchanted permanently, and that means that they have really high magic damage. So because I've pumped my magic from leveling as Sorcerer, because yes, that does help, you then use enchanted Thief Blades, and it doesn't matter that I'm not focusing on strength, because I still do hefty melee damage from the magic from the enchantment. So that's something to think about when you do your equipment and your combinations. Of course, there are certain vocations and weapon setups that are just sort of anti-synergy. It's kind of pointless being a warrior and a thief, because yes, you get both extremes of damage and speed of your weapons, but what are you gaining by being able to do both at any given moment? The real joy and test of the Warfarer is to use your limited 3 skill slots and your ability to combine multiple vocations core skills while using them to create the perfect 3 skill combination without vocation restrictions. And given how many skills there are in the game, you bet there is some ridiculous combos waiting to be discovered beyond even the one that I am currently using. Just having something like Mystic Spearhand on just for mirror vesture so you can swap to it, put the shield on you and your party, and then swap to something else so you barely ever take damage from anything. I mean, it just makes it really smooth. I honestly cannot both recommend enough and express enough how powerful Warfarer is and its upper potential. So with that all said, I hope it's kind of conveyed just how much fun this can be. Let's go have said fun. Oh, and I've not touched on it yet, but one thing I do want to mention is you may be wondering why my third choice is Cutting Wind. The main combo of damage is Orgrill Flare and Skull Splitter, so the third slot here is a little bit flexible. I kind of wanted it to be Free-Gore so I could still create platforms with my Archie Staff, but Cutting Wind for pure traveling around the map, and even in combat, I mean, watch this. Just the ability to sprint down roads like this and get to where you want to be that quickly with very little stamina usage, yeah, it's really good. As is being able to dart across the battlefield and get to your enemies. So, I would recommend it, but of course you can use whatever third skill you think is best. And then something like this, switching to my Archie Staff, so I can hop down here and then levitate just to make the fall a bit softer before going back to Thief. I mean, it just adds such a cool flow to the experience. It really, really does. A lovely test Cyclops for us. So I'll switch to my staff, cast Orgrill Flare, sped up on his foot, then I will switch to my thieves, and we will start just stabbing his foot repeatedly to pile damage into the flare and give it more explosions, and it's going to detonate. Now, of course, that's a basic Cyclops, but I think it really does kind of put across the general idea of what we're going for here. Now, that wasn't even using Skull Splitter, which of course is its own other thing, but it's kind of unnecessary, and I put it on the foot, so ironically I would have jumped away from it. On something like a Chimera, you can put it on the goat head, and then a Skull Splitter up to the goat head to start putting explosions into the flare, and it just really depends on the situation. But the thing is, Skull Splitter by itself does ridiculous damage on top of it increasing the damage the flare's gonna do. And hey, look, there we go, Warrior level 2 despite being a Warfarer. So, as you can see, yeah, there really is sky-high potential when it comes to this vocation. So, for a final little bit of goodness, let's tackle this Gore Minotaur. We're going to first put the Augural Flare a little bit higher up on him this time around, switch to our rogues, get up close to him, and get caught on a rock. That's awkward. Well, you know, these things happen when we do it live. It's okay, you didn't even notice. That's fine. That's how light Augural Flare is until we actually detonate it. Once more, let's put it on his head, swap to our rogue, and then we can Skull Splitter right into it as many times as we want. It will also put us on him, and then we can manually do it, and I mean... Oh, it's just brutal. It really is. Then we'll swap back to Thief, manually just stab it up this time around. You know what? Let's do one more Skull Splitter just for good measure. Oh, he didn't even need to explode, but there's all the explosions. I cannot, again, it's so good. It's so powerful. What a combination. And hey, Trickster is the reward. Cannot really recommend it enough, guys. Try your warfare. Once you get to grips with it, come up with your own 3 skill combos, multiple core skill combos of all the vocations, and really just be the Arisen that you can be. I hope you found this both fun and informative, and for now, like if you enjoyed this, subscribe and hit the bell for more. Consider supporting the future of the channel on Patreon down below, and until we meet again, a goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.